Questions. Good evening, everyone. Let me start with a question. How many of you here have ever felt lost? Not lost in Google Maps, lost in life. You wake up in the morning, check your phone. Questions. Scroll through Instagram, WhatsApp, emails, news, and before you know it, the day is over. And somewhere in between, you forget to check in with yourself. If that sounds familiar, questions, then congratulations, you are officially human. Today, I want to share something ancient, simple and powerful. Something that was spoken on a battlefield 5,000 years ago. Questions, but feels like it was written for our generation. And don't worry, I promise I won't make this sound like a history class or a sermon. This is a life conversation. The title is Questions. An Indian monk explains the Bhagavad Gita in 7 minutes. Now don't panic, I'm not really going to finish the Bhagavad Gita in 7 minutes. Even Google needs more time than that. Questions. But what I will do is give you the heartbeat of it, the soul of it, the part that can change the way you look at your life, your stress, your relationships, and your purpose. Questions. Let me take you to the scene. Picture this. 2 massive armies are standing on a battlefield. Conch shells are blowing. Warriors are ready. Arrows are loaded. Questions. And right in the middle of all this chaos stands a man named Arjuna. He is strong, skilled, successful, respected. But he is also breaking down. His hands are trembling. His mind is racing. Questions. His heart is heavy. And he says something that sounds very modern. He says, I don't know what is right anymore. I don't know what to do. Questions. I don't know who I am in this moment. Doesn't that sound like us sometimes? Different battlefield, same confusion. Our battlefield is not made of bows and arrows. It is made of expectations, questions, comparisons, competition, pressure, and fear of failure. And then comes Krishna, not with a lecture, not with a long motivational speech, but with wisdom that is calm, deep, and timeless. Questions. The first thing Krishna teaches Arjuna is something very simple, but very uncomfortable. He says, you are not this body. You are not this mind. Questions. You are something deeper. But now let me explain this in a modern way. If I take your phone and smash it on the ground, will you say, you broke me? No. You will say, questions, you broke my phone. Because you know you are not the phone. You are the user of the phone. In the same way, the Gita says you are not the body. You are not the emotions. Questions. You are not even the thoughts. You are the one who experiences them. And the moment you understand this, something magical happens. You stop being controlled by every insult, every failure, questions, every bad day, every comment, every comparison. Because now you know, I am bigger than this moment. Then Krishna talks about one of the biggest problems of our generation, overthinking. Questions. He says, you have the right to work, but not to the fruits of your work. Let me translate that into daily life. Do your best in your studies, questions. But don't let your happiness depend only on the result. Give your best at your job, but don't let your self-worth depend only on your salary. Give your best in relationships, questions, but don't let your peace depend only on how others treat you. Because the moment your happiness is outsourced, you become emotionally bankrupt. The Gita teaches us something radical. Questions, work with passion, let go of obsession. Now here's my favorite part. Krishna doesn't say, leave the world, go to the Himalayas, become a monk. He says, questions, be spiritual in the middle of life. In traffic, in deadlines, in family drama, in heartbreak, in success, in failure. Because real spirituality is not about escaping life. Questions. It is about understanding life. Let me tell you a short story. A man once went to a monk and said, teach me meditation. The monk said, questions. Sit quietly and observe your breath. After 2 minutes, the man said, my mind is full of thoughts. Or the monk smiled and said, good questions. That means you are normal. The goal is not to stop thoughts. The goal is to stop being controlled by them. And that is exactly what the Gita teaches. You don't need to change the world. Questions. You need to change the way you see the world. Another powerful message Krishna gives is about fear. He says, what is born will die. What has died was born. Questions. So why fear what is natural? We are so afraid of losing money, losing people, losing status, losing comfort. But the Gita gently reminds us, nothing in this world is permanent. Questions. So don't hold life with a clenched fist. Hold it with open hands, enjoy deeply, love fully, work sincerely. And when something leaves, let it go gracefully. Now let me bring this home. Questions. If Krishna were standing here today and had only 30 seconds to speak to you, I believe he would say this: you are not here to impress the world. You are here to express your purpose. Questions. You don't need to become someone else. You need to become the best version of who you already are. Your life is not a race. It is a journey. Questions. And comparison is the fastest way to forget how beautiful your own path is. So what is the Bhagavad Gita in 7 minutes? It is not a book about religion. It is a manual for the human mind. Questions. It teaches you how to stand strong in chaos, how to stay humble in success, how to stay hopeful in pain, and how to stay peaceful in a noisy world. Let me end with this thought. Every day, questions. Life will ask you one simple question. Who are you choosing to be today? Not what you will achieve, not what you will earn, not how many people will like your post, but who you will be. Questions. Calm or angry, kind or bitter, present or distracted, courageous or comfortable. The Bhagavad Gita is not meant to be read once and kept on a shelf. It is meant to be lived one decision at a time. Questions. Thank you so much for listening. And if today even one sentence made you pause, reflect, or breathe a little deeper, then this conversation was worth it. Thank you. Questions. Let me begin with something very simple. Right now, as you are reading these words, pause for just a moment and notice your breathing. You did not tell your lungs to breathe. Questions. They are doing it automatically. Now notice a thought passing through your mind. Maybe it is about what you will do after this, or who might message you, or whether this sounds interesting or boring. Questions. That thought appeared, stayed for a moment, and then moved away. Here is the powerful question. If you can observe your breath and you can observe your thoughts, questions, then who is the one doing the observing? The Gita gives a beautiful answer. It says, you are not the body that breathes. You are not the mind that thinks. You are the awareness that watches both. Questions. Let me make this more relatable. Imagine you are sitting in a movie theater. The screen shows a sad scene. You feel emotional. Then a funny scene comes and you laugh. Then an action scene comes. Questions. And your heart beats faster. The movie changes, but you, the person sitting in the seat, remain the same. In the same way, life is a movie. Your body and mind are the screen. Emotions, success, questions, failure, praise, and criticism are the scenes, but you are the one sitting inside, watching it all. Most of our suffering begins when we forget this. When someone insults us, questions, we don't just hear the words, we become the insult. When we fail, we don't just experience failure, we become a failure. When we succeed, we don't just enjoy success, we become our success. Questions. And that is exhausting. Let me give you a daily life example. Think about your phone. When your phone battery is low, do you say, I am low? No, you say, questions. My phone is low. When your phone hangs, you don't panic about your own intelligence. You simply restart the device. But when your mind feels tired, stressed, or confused, you say, questions. I am stressed. I am broken. I am not good enough. Or the Gita gently whispers, no, your mind is tired. Your emotions are heavy. Questions. But you are still whole. There is a beautiful freedom in this understanding. Let's say you had a bad day at work. Your boss criticized you. A project failed. You came home feeling frustrated. Questions. Now normally what happens? You carry that mood into your house. You speak sharply to your family. You scroll angrily on your phone. You go to bed with a heavy heart. The day doesn't end at 6 p.m. Questions. It follows you into the night. But when you understand that you are the observer, something changes. You can say to yourself, my mind is upset right now. My emotions are disturbed right now. Questions. But I am not this disturbance. I am the one watching it. And just like clouds passing in the sky, the emotions slowly pass. Let me share another simple example. Questions. Have you ever been stuck in traffic and felt your blood pressure rise? Someone cuts you off. Someone honks. Someone shouts inside. A storm begins. Now imagine if questions. Instead of getting lost in that storm, you step back internally and say, interesting. My mind is angry right now. My body is tense right now. The moment you observe anger, questions, instead of being anger, its power reduces. This is not philosophy. This is practical. The Gita is not asking you to become emotionless. It is teaching you to become emotionally intelligent. Questions. There is a big difference. Emotionless means you don't feel. Emotionally intelligent means you feel, but you are not ruled by what you feel. Let's talk about social media for a moment. Questions. You post a picture, it gets many likes, you feel happy. You post another picture, it gets fewer likes. You feel low. What changed? You didn't change. Your soul didn't change. Questions. Your value didn't change. Only a number on a screen changed. But because we identify so deeply with the mind and the body, that number decides our mood. The observer within you is always steady. Questions. It is like the ocean. The mind is like the waves. Some days the waves are calm. Some days they are wild. But deep down, the ocean remains still. Now imagine living from that deep place. Questions. Imagine being praised and still staying humble. Imagine being criticized and still staying calm. Imagine failing and still believing in yourself. Imagine succeeding and still staying grounded. Questions. That is the power of knowing who you truly are. Let me tell you a small story. A man once went to a monk and said, my mind is my biggest enemy. It never lets me rest. The monk replied, questions. Who is saying this? The man said, me. The monk smiled and said, then you are not the mind. You are the one who notices the mind. That one sentence can change a life. Questions. You are not your past mistakes. You are the one who remembers them. You are not your fears. You are the one who notices them. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who hears them. Questions. And here is the most beautiful part. If you can observe something, you can change your relationship with it. You may not be able to stop a negative thought from coming. Questions. But you can choose not to invite it for tea. You may not be able to stop sadness from knocking on your door. But you can choose how long it stays. Every morning when you wake up, your body wakes up. Questions. Your mind wakes up. But you also wake up as the silent presence behind them. If you can remember this just once a day, life becomes lighter. You stop carrying the world on your shoulders. Questions. You stop taking every word personally. You stop defining yourself by every win or loss. You start living like a witness, not a victim. And slowly you realize something powerful. Questions. Peace is not something you need to create. It is something you need to remember. Because it was always there, behind the noise of the mind, behind the restlessness of the body. Questions. Behind the drama of daily life. You were never broken. You were just too busy identifying with the storm, instead of remembering that you are the sky. Questions. Let me ask you something honestly. How many of you have ever done something good, worked really hard, gave your full effort, and still the result did not go the way you wanted? Questions. Maybe you studied day and night for an exam, and the marks were not what you expected. Maybe you gave your heart to a relationship, and it still fell apart. Maybe you worked late nights at your job. Questions. And someone else got the promotion. In those moments, it doesn't just hurt. It feels unfair. This is exactly where most of our stress is born. Not from the work itself, questions, but from the attachment to the outcome. The Gita offers a line so simple, yet so powerful, that if you truly understand it, it can change the way you live every single day. It says, questions. You have the right to your actions, but not to the fruits of those actions. Now let's bring this into daily life. Think about a farmer. The farmer prepares the soil. The farmer sows the seeds. Questions. The farmer waters the field. The farmer protects the crops. But can the farmer command the rain to fall? Can the farmer order the sun to shine at the right time? No. The farmer does his part. Questions. And then nature does its part. In the same way, life is a partnership between your effort and forces beyond your control. Most of us want full control. We want to decide how things should happen. Questions. When they should happen and how people should respond. And when reality doesn't match our expectations, we suffer. Let's take a simple example. You send a message to someone you care about. Questions. You expect a reply. 5 minutes, 10 minutes pass. 1 hour passes. Your mind starts creating stories. Did I say something wrong? Are they ignoring me? Are they upset? Your mood changes. Questions. Not because of what actually happened, but because of the result you imagined. Now imagine sending that message and saying inside, I have done my part. I was honest. I was kind. Questions. The response is not in my control. Suddenly your heart feels lighter. This is what the Gita is teaching. It is not saying, don't care. It is saying, care deeply about what you do. Questions. But don't chain your peace to how things turn out. But there is a big difference. Let me tell you a story. A student once went to his teacher and said, I am afraid of exams. Questions. I feel sick before every result. The teacher asked, did you study? The student said, yes, I gave my best. The teacher smiled and said, questions. Then why are you carrying a burden that is not yours? Think about that. Your responsibility is to prepare. Your responsibility is to show up. Your responsibility is to try sincerely. Questions. The final result depends on many things. The paper, the examiner, the competition, timing, luck, and circumstances. When you attach your self-worth to the result, questions, every outcome becomes a judgment of who you are. A success makes you feel superior. A failure makes you feel small. And your emotional state keeps swinging like a pendulum. Questions. The Gita offers a more peaceful way to live. It says, let your worth come from your effort, not your outcome. Let's talk about work life. Imagine 2 people in the same office. Questions. Doing the same job. The first person works only for the promotion, the bonus, the praise, the recognition. Every day is a calculation. Will this get me noticed? Questions. Will this help my image? When the reward comes, they are happy. When it doesn't, they are frustrated, bitter, and tired. The second person works with sincerity. They focus on learning, improving, questions, and contributing. Of course, they appreciate rewards. But their main satisfaction comes from knowing, today I gave my best. Now here is the interesting part. Questions. The second person usually performs better in the long run. Why? Because when you are obsessed with results, you work with fear. When you focus on effort, you work with joy. Fear makes you tense. Questions. Joy makes you creative. Think about a child drawing a picture. The child doesn't care if it will be framed, liked, or judged. The child is just enjoying the act of drawing. Questions. That is why the lines are free, the colors are bold, and the smile is natural. Somewhere along the way, as adults, we stop drawing for joy and start drawing for approval. Questions. The Gita invites us to go back to that inner child. Do what you do with love, not with anxiety. Let's talk about relationships. Many people enter relationships thinking, what will I get? Love, questions, attention, security, validation. But the Gita's wisdom suggests a different approach. What can I give? Or care, respect, presence. When you focus only on what you will receive, questions. Every small disappointment feels like a betrayal. But when you focus on what you can offer, your heart stays open. regardless of how the other person behaves. That doesn't mean you accept disrespect. Questions. It means you don't lose your inner balance based on someone else's actions. Here is a powerful truth. You can control your actions. You cannot control other people's reactions. Questions. So why give them control over your peace? Even in failure, this mindset is a blessing. If something doesn't work out, instead of saying, I am a failure, you can say, this attempt failed. Questions. But I am still learning. But one statement crushes the soul, the other strengthens it. Every morning when you wake up, life gives you a simple choice. You can go into the day thinking, questions, what will I get today? Or you can go into the day thinking, what can I give today? One leads to stress, the other leads to fulfillment. When you walk this path, questions, something beautiful happens. Success feels sweet, but it doesn't make you arrogant. Failure feels painful, but it doesn't make you hopeless. You become steady. Questions. And in a world that is constantly shaking, steadiness is a superpower. So do your work with full heart. Speak your truth with kindness. Show up with sincerity. And then gently. Questions. Release the outcome into life's hands. Because peace is not found in controlling the future. Peace is found in giving your best in the present. Questions. Let's pause for a moment and reflect. How many times have you felt that your happiness depends on someone else? Maybe it's a friend replying to your message, a partner showing appreciation. Questions. A boss recognizing your work, or even a social media post getting a certain number of likes. And when it doesn't happen the way you imagined, a small storm brews inside. Disappointment. Questions. Frustration, sadness. You feel hurt, upset, or restless. You think, why isn't the world treating me the way I want? And just like that, questions. Your inner peace becomes hostage to something outside your control. The Bhagavad Gita gives us a life-altering perspective on this. Questions. It says that real happiness is not something you receive from the world, because the world is uncertain, temporary, and ever-changing. True happiness comes from within. Questions. From learning to anchor your joy in yourself rather than in circumstances or the opinions of others. Think about a child playing with a balloon. The balloon is beautiful, colorful, and fun. Questions. The child laughs, jumps, and enjoys. But what happens if the balloon slips out of the child's hand and flies away? Suddenly, the laughter disappears. Questions. The happiness was tied entirely to something external, the balloon. Now imagine if the child could find the same joy in simply running, laughing, or imagining, even if the balloon was gone. Questions. That is the kind of happiness the Gita teaches us to cultivate, one that doesn't depend on things we cannot control. Let's bring this into daily life. Consider relationships. So often, questions, people think, I will be happy if this person loves me, appreciates me, or behaves the way I want. And then the smallest disagreement or a delayed reply can ruin an entire day. Suddenly, questions. You are not living in joy. You are living on someone else's schedule, their mood, their choices. You have outsourced your happiness to them. Questions. The Gita reminds us that your joy is your responsibility. You cannot make someone else responsible for your inner peace. You can inspire, support, love, and care, but you cannot control the feelings, questions, actions, or reactions of others. When you understand this, you start taking your happiness back. You realize that love is giving without expectations. Appreciation is offered without demanding it in return. Peace is felt without needing someone else's permission. Here's another example from work. Many people think, questions. I will be happy when I get promoted, when I get recognition, when my project succeeds. But life has a way of throwing unexpected results. Sometimes, despite giving your best, questions, things don't go your way. The promotion goes to someone else. Your project hits obstacles. And suddenly your entire sense of satisfaction and self-worth collapses. Why? Questions. Because your happiness was tied to outcomes that were never fully in your control. If instead you focus on doing your work sincerely, learning, growing, and contributing with integrity, questions, your happiness becomes self-sustained. Success feels like a bonus rather than the only source of joy. Even small, everyday situations teach this lesson. Imagine you wake up in the morning, questions, and it's raining. You plan to go out for a walk. You feel annoyed, disappointed, maybe even a little sad. Why? Because you outsourced your happiness to the weather. Now, questions. Imagine instead that you wake up, notice the rain, and think, this is different, but I can still enjoy my morning. You brew tea, listen to music, read a book, or simply watch the raindrops. Questions. Your happiness no longer depends on perfect conditions. You reclaim it. The Gita also teaches that when happiness is tied to external factors, it is fragile. Like a glass vase, questions. It can shatter with the slightest disturbance. But when happiness comes from within, from self-awareness, gratitude, purpose, and acceptance, it becomes unshakable. You can face criticism, questions, failure, or loss without losing yourself. You can celebrate success without inflating your ego. You can navigate life's ups and downs with balance and equanimity. Consider this story. Questions. A man was feeling frustrated every time he waited for his train. It was late, the platform was crowded, people were pushing, and he would fume with anger. One day, he remembered a simple thought. Questions. I can either wait angrily, or I can use this time to read, breathe, and observe life around me. The next day, the train was late again, but this time he smiled, read his book, questions, and even helped an elder lady with her luggage. By the end of the journey, he realized he had been happy for 30 minutes, despite the same delay. The difference was simple. Questions. He did not outsource his happiness to the train schedule or the behavior of others. He created it from within. In relationships, work, health, or everyday life, this principle transforms everything. Questions. When you stop giving others the keys to your joy, your life becomes lighter, freer, and more peaceful. You no longer fear loss, rejection, or failure. You enjoy what is. Questions. Without being obsessed with what could or should be. Gratitude becomes natural, kindness becomes effortless, presence becomes possible. Questions. The Gita encourages us to cultivate an internal garden of happiness, nourished by self-awareness, mindful action, and detachment from external validation. Your heart becomes like a calm lake. Questions. Waves may ripple across the surface, but the depth remains steady, silent, and clear. This doesn't mean you don't engage with life or that you become indifferent. On the contrary, you engage fully. Questions. Care deeply and act passionately, but your inner peace is never hostage to circumstances. Every morning, every decision, every relationship is an opportunity to practice this. Questions. Smile without expecting a return smile. Work without obsessing over results. Love without clinging. Accept life as it comes and let your happiness rise from within. When you embrace this teaching, questions, you start to notice something magical. The world becomes brighter. Challenges don't weigh you down as heavily. Setbacks don't destroy your mood. Questions. Relationships deepen because love and joy are no longer transactional. Success becomes sweeter, not because it defines you, but because it adds to the fulfillment you already carry inside. Questions. The essence of this wisdom is simple but profound. Don't outsource your happiness to outcomes or people. Make your heart your home. Make joy your habit. And watch how life, questions, no matter what it throws at you, starts feeling lighter, brighter, and more beautiful. Questions. When most people hear the word spirituality, they immediately think of monks in orange robes, sitting in silence on a mountain, chanting mantras, or meditating in a temple for hours. Questions. But the Bhagavad Gita teaches us something far more practical, far more accessible, and far more transformative. Spirituality is not about escaping life. It is about living life consciously. Questions. Meaningfully and fully wherever you are. Spirituality is not a place you go. It is the way you show up in every moment of your ordinary life. Think about your daily routine. You wake up, questions. Brush your teeth, get ready, make breakfast, go to work or school, interact with family and friends, handle chores, deal with challenges, scroll on your phone, commute and repeat. Questions. How often do you feel like you are just on autopilot, reacting to circumstances rather than consciously engaging with them? That is the perfect example of life without spirituality. Busy, distracted, questions, and unconnected to deeper meaning. The Gita tells us that even in the middle of chaos, even in the thick of responsibilities, you can live spiritually. Questions. You don't need a special environment to practice peace, mindfulness, or presence. You don't need to renounce the world to find connection with yourself. Questions. True spirituality is not about removing yourself from the world. It is about being fully in the world, without losing yourself in it. Let me illustrate with a simple example. Questions. Imagine a mother preparing breakfast for her children. She is chopping vegetables, boiling milk, frying parathas, and simultaneously worrying about her deadlines and errands. Questions. If she is completely absorbed in the stress of the morning, she may spill the milk, burn the paratha, or feel frustrated with herself. But if she brings awareness to the task, mindfully chopping, questions, feeling gratitude for the food she is preparing, offering love in every gesture, then even this mundane act becomes an act of spirituality. Her consciousness shifts, her heart opens, questions, and the day begins with a sense of calm and purpose. Spirituality in daily life is also about how you interact with people. A simple act of kindness at work, patience with a difficult colleague, questions, compassion toward a neighbor, or a smile to a stranger can be deeply spiritual if done consciously. Krishna teaches us that the way we conduct ourselves in every interaction reflects our inner state. Questions. If our actions come from ego, impatience, or irritation, they drain us and others. But if our actions come from awareness, understanding, and love, they uplift both ourselves and those around us. Questions. In other words, spirituality is not confined to rituals. It is expressed in our behavior, our choices, and our presence in every ordinary moment. Consider a busy office worker. Deadlines, emails, questions, meetings, and targets can feel overwhelming. Most people feel spirituality is impossible in this environment. But imagine if, during a stressful meeting, you pause for a second, breathe, questions, and consciously choose your response rather than reacting impulsively. Imagine you listen with full attention, speak with clarity and kindness, and make decisions with integrity. Questions. This is spirituality in action. You are not escaping the office or pretending it doesn't exist. You are showing up fully, consciously, and wisely. Questions. This is the essence of what the Gita calls karma yoga. Performing your duties with awareness and without attachment to results. Even moments as simple as commuting can be spiritual practice. Questions. Picture yourself stuck in traffic. Most people honk, curse, or fume. Their energy becomes tense and chaotic. But if you use this moment to breathe, observe the world around you, reflect quietly, questions, or even mentally repeat a word of gratitude, you transform waiting into meditation. You see that spirituality is not about isolation. It is about bringing consciousness and love into ordinary life. Questions. Spirituality also means embracing challenges with presence rather than resistance. Life will never be free of obstacles, disappointments, or difficulties. Questions. The Gita reminds us that our growth and peace come not from escaping difficulties, but from how we respond to them. If you respond with awareness, patience, and understanding, questions, every challenge becomes an opportunity to practice spiritual discipline. Imagine dealing with a difficult family member. Instead of reacting with anger or frustration, you pause, breathe, questions, and respond with compassion. Your inner state remains steady, and the situation, while not perfect, becomes more manageable. This is spirituality in the midst of life, not in isolation. Questions. Even leisure can be spiritual. Eating mindfully, walking consciously, reading deeply, or appreciating nature are not just hobbies. They are invitations to live fully, to experience presence, questions, and to cultivate gratitude. Spirituality transforms every activity, whether simple or grand, into a chance to connect with your inner self and with the world around you. Questions. The Gita's teaching here is liberating. You don't need to leave your job, stop interacting with society, or become a hermit to be spiritual. Questions. Spirituality is about being fully awake in life, seeing clearly, acting consciously, and living with awareness, love, and purpose. Questions. It is about transforming the ordinary into extraordinary by bringing presence, attention, and consciousness to everything you do. If you truly grasp this, life becomes richer, deeper, questions, and more meaningful. Washing dishes, walking to work, responding to emails, having conversations, handling stress. Every ordinary act becomes an opportunity to live spiritually. Questions. You are no longer waiting for the perfect time or the perfect place to connect with your inner self. Your spiritual practice happens here, now, in the middle of your life. Questions. The ultimate teaching is simple: wherever you are, whatever you do, show up fully. Bring awareness, love, and presence to your actions. Let your heart guide your choices. Questions. Let your consciousness shape your reactions. That is spirituality, not a place you visit, but a way you live. When you practice this, even the busiest day can feel peaceful. Questions. Even the most mundane moment can feel sacred, and even ordinary life can feel extraordinary. Questions. Spirituality is not a destination on a mountain or a ritual in a temple. It is the art of living consciously, deeply, and beautifully in every single moment of your life. Questions. Every day your mind is like a bustling train station. Thoughts arrive non-stop. Some are brief, like a passenger rushing through, others linger, taking up space and demanding attention. Questions. Some thoughts are exciting, making you dream, plan, and imagine. Others are heavy, critical, fearful, or self-doubting. And most of the time, we treat these thoughts as if they define who we are. Questions. We let them hijack our emotions, dictate our mood, and control our actions. The Bhagavad Gita teaches us a revolutionary truth. You cannot control which thoughts appear. Questions. But you can control which ones you give your attention to, which ones you believe, and which ones you act upon. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer behind them. Let me give you an example. Questions. Imagine waking up in the morning and immediately thinking, I am tired. I can't do this. Today will be difficult. If you allow that thought to take over, your day starts with struggle. Questions. You feel drained before you even step out the door. Now the same thought might appear again later, but if you pause, observe, and choose not to dwell on it, if you decide instead, I feel tired, questions, but I can manage this, I will take it one step at a time. Your mind becomes your ally, not your enemy. The thought still exists, questions, but you no longer hand over the steering wheel of your emotions and actions to it. Think about social media for a moment. One negative comment, one critical post, one small piece of bad news, questions, and suddenly our minds spiral. Thoughts like, I am not good enough or I will never succeed appear, often without any warning. We might even believe them automatically. Questions. But here's the wisdom of the Gita. Thoughts are visitors, not rulers. You don't have to entertain every visitor that arrives. You can observe, evaluate questions, and decide which thoughts to follow and which to gently let go. Let me tell you a story. A young man once struggled with anxiety. Every day, questions. He would imagine the worst case scenarios. He would worry about his job, his relationships, his health, and his future. He felt trapped by his own mind. One day, questions. His teacher asked him to do a simple exercise. Notice the thought. Name it. Thank it for showing up, and then choose whether to follow it or not. The young man tried, and slowly, questions. He began to realize that the anxiety was not him. he was the one observing it. Over time, he learned to respond thoughtfully rather than react automatically. Thoughts still came, questions, but they no longer controlled him. His life transformed because he understood that control doesn't mean stopping thoughts. It means choosing your response to them. Questions. This principle is incredibly practical in everyday life. Consider a workplace scenario. You are in a meeting and someone criticizes your idea. Instantly, a thought arises. I am not competent. Questions. They think I am a failure. Most people react immediately. They feel hurt, embarrassed, or defensive. But if you pause, recognize that the thought is just that, a thought, you gain freedom. Questions. You can choose a different thought. This is feedback, not a verdict. I can learn and improve. Suddenly, your emotional reaction is no longer dictated by the first thought. You regain clarity. Questions. Composure and confidence. Even in personal relationships, this principle is transformative. When a loved one says something upsetting, our mind often creates a narrative. Questions. They don't care about me, or I am not appreciated. If we blindly follow these thoughts, arguments escalate, feelings get hurt, and peace is lost. But if we pause and observe the thought, questions, we can choose, this is my mind interpreting the situation. I will communicate calmly and understand before reacting. We are no longer prisoners of our immediate mental reactions. Questions. We become conscious participants in our lives. The Gita emphasizes this skill because it is the foundation of emotional mastery. Thoughts will always arise. They are natural. You cannot stop them. Questions. Trying to stop them is like trying to stop the wind. But you can choose which ones you engage with. You can choose which ones you nurture and act upon. Questions. You can decide which thoughts will shape your emotions, behaviors, and ultimately your life. Even small, everyday examples illustrate this power. Imagine standing in a long queue at the grocery store. Questions. A thought arises, this is so frustrating, I am wasting my time. If you follow it, you fume, sigh, and scowl, and the next hour feels like a punishment. But if you pause, recognize the thought, questions, and shift to, this is a moment to breathe, reflect, or even practice patience, your experience changes. The line is the same, the weight is the same, questions, but your mental state becomes peaceful instead of tense. Children provide another striking example. They live fully in the present, unburdened by endless loops of negative thinking. Questions. They experience their thoughts, but rarely let them control their happiness. As adults, we can learn from this innocence. Observe our thoughts, acknowledge them. Questions. And choose consciously which ones to let shape our lives. By practicing this daily, we cultivate mental freedom. We stop being reactive and start being responsive. Questions. Our inner world becomes a place of conscious choice rather than automatic chaos. We learn to engage with life intentionally rather than being swept along by every fleeting thought or fear. Questions. The ultimate teaching is simpler. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer, the awareness that notices them. Thoughts will come, some uplifting, some critical, questions, some confusing. But you hold the power to decide which ones deserve attention, which ones deserve action, and which ones deserve to simply pass by. When you live with this awareness, questions, every moment becomes an opportunity to choose peace, clarity, and purpose, rather than being a prisoner of your own mind. This is the essence of mental mastery, the gift of awareness, questions, and the daily practice the Bhagavad Gita wants us to cultivate. You cannot stop the waves in the ocean, but you can learn to surf them with grace. You cannot stop thoughts from arising, questions, but you can choose which ones you follow, and in doing so, you reclaim the ultimate freedom, the freedom to live life consciously, with intention, and with joy.